Well, hello everyone. Here's show right here. Talk about dreams right here. And like I have right here is this bird feeder looking painting right here. And I don't know if we've seen this before, but this actually is work that I went ahead and worked right here using Microsoft Paint. Those couple years ago, and so I look, you came across this right here, saved on in the folder right here. But what does it usually mean? When we dream about stuff, does that basically mean is toward does that take you to what you call this peaceful magical place or something like that, or some might even call this toward it, it's another way of imagining yourself at another spot. And let's just say that if it's maybe at a secret garden or somewhere like that, or like takes your imagination to another place and all that. So it's basically that when we close our eyes and think about things, and a lot of times it's like, when we dream a lot of things. And but here lately though, it sure seems that way, that it seems like, for what we call between dreams and nightmares though. And it sure seems that way toward it. We're talking about things that haven't happened yet. So, how many of us are really going to have that to where you're going to experience having a dream to where you're actually talking to somebody, or you're actually seeing something that's really, but it's really, it hasn't happened yet. So a lot of times it's like, whenever dreams become a reality. And so I guess I can mention that right here for whenever, about dreams though. That what do we call dreams? The dream, dreams. It's like it's all in the thoughts, the imagination, the imagination. So it hasn't happened yet, and so a lot of times it sure seems that way that we could probably maybe write on it as toward it. Yeah, some dreams don't make any sense. Some dreams don't make any sense. And well, what's that for any reason at all, like anybody might even want to know too, that has anybody experienced that to where that some dreams that don't make any sense to where that you dream in your dream in your dream that you see things. You see things that make no sense. And let's just say that for the most part, though, that when we think about dreams, though, that you're asking somebody a question. So if you're asking somebody a question in your dream, though, and a lot of times you say is toward, really, where they say whenever you were talking to them, or where they say whenever you were asking that question a lot. So a lot of times, if we've all been there toward that, you go ahead and ask a question as to where that, in your dream that you dream that you go outside, during the early morning hours, and you see the birds in the trees and all that. And then you might maybe notice just a little bit of how the wind is blowing, and maybe other things that go on. And so you want to know too as to where, what do you call that usually whenever dreams that don't really make any sense? And let's just say if you're woken up, and let's just say that if you are woken up from a dream, maybe from something like maybe the telephone ringing, or if it's maybe alarm clock or something like that. So a lot of times that's usually what happens, is to where if you're dreaming about being on a date, or maybe on a honeymoon or something like that. And I want to know just a little bit too, to where what does that usually mean about dreams? And so whenever I was painting this, I was actually getting some ideas about some birds and all that. But still, that I could also use this as an example right here of like a puzzle, to where you're trying to fit together the puzzles, to where that, like in case if we all want to know too, that when we have those dreams to where you're just trying to figure out okay, that don't really make any sense, or you're just trying to picture in your mind, what does this mean or what does that mean? And so let's just say if it is maybe during a graduation ceremony or during a vacation or something like that, that a lot of things that you were dreaming about and that the things that you see and the things that really come to the thoughts, thoughts in the mind and all that. And we want to know too that what does that usually mean whenever we do dream about? I'm like, yeah, it's something that you've always wanted to do, but you just you try to want to know too is toward that maybe not all dreams really end toward okay, that makes more sense now. So a lot of times it's like, yeah, that's whenever everybody else will probably say too that you want to go and talk about your dreams. And like I say that, yeah, the ones that yeah, for yeah, I mean, I really don't know. People might even say too that that yeah, that's usually what you kind. I'm like, yeah, blackout, blackout dreams or something like that. Yeah, yeah, you like in case of anybody that may even want to know too that some dreams that don't make any sense. There are some dreams to where that you had a dream, but you're just trying to remember what they were and all that. But based on from my experience from a lot of dreams that I had, is to where that most of the time it was over a conversation that you had with somebody that you've been wanting to talk to you, and you're just trying to remember what they said and all that. And I don't a lot of those dreams, of course, were not all related to birds or anything, but quite a few of them were related to teachers I used to know in school and classmates and other anybody else that I haven't talked to in a very long time, and so I usually have dreams about reconnecting with them and then actually talking to them, anything that we haven't been I'm like, yeah, sporting events or fairs and festivals, like you name it, that a lot of things that yeah, you dream about talking to people again after 5 years since the carnival or something like that. And so it sure seems that way that when we dream about things that you're probably thinking is toward it the first thing that comes to your mind, and like talk about the concerns and the thoughts and all that. So it sure seems that way that yeah, that most dreams though that talk about the thoughts and then so yeah, so for the most part that when we think about dreams though is toward it meaning that do our dreams tell us anything? I'm like, do our dreams really tell us anything? And so the first thing that we may want to know too is that whenever you wake up at one afternoon from a dream or from a strange dream that morning, and the first thing that you're going to be wondering is is it really, did you really learn anything from your dream, or did that really make any sense? But still, it sure seems that way that for a time, I'm like, yeah, if it's between natural disasters and or weather, or maybe it could also be something that's really been concerning to come to your mind, anything like that. But it sure seems that way that when we think about dreams, though, that it seems like that if we're talking about that having dreams toward that yeah, if it's starting up a business, or it could also be maybe the first your first date, or maybe if it's anything such as is to going out to dinner with a friend of yours. And so whenever you are invited to go to a party or somewhere like that, then the first thing that's going to really come to your mind is toward that really what could possibly go wrong. And I was also thinking too is to where what does it usually mean to prepare for the worst? So yeah, what does that usually mean to prepare for the worst? So in case if anybody were to kind of get that idea, is that yeah, that talking about is as to what could possibly go wrong, knowing about that yeah, well, if you practiced enough, or maybe that if you've gotten a lot of experience just by something this happening, that happening, or anything like that. But like anybody might even want to know too that does that really have to be a question to her? What does that mean to be prepared for the worst? And so it sure seems that way that a lot of times it's like really that I don't really know if you want to kind of make that kind of like what you call like just I'm like yeah just talking or just concerned or anything like that. But let's just say that if a dream that does give us that source of that source of sign to where something is wrong, or is something that comes to our mind. So really, that the way we think about that right there is something that comes to our mind, especially so when we think about birds, though, that we might think is toward north, south, east, and west, and maybe if the wind is blowing say towards the west or something like that. What do you think the source of interactions that those birds are going to give and all that? But really though, that a lot of times it sure seems that way. That when we think about dreams, though, we also think about people that we do wind up meeting one of these days, or the things that like in case of anybody that may want to know too, is toward it for what we call dreams, right? The type of dreams that take us up to I'm like, to where we actually imagine, and maybe that you like anybody say that whenever you have dreams, whenever we dream about things, that's also another way of how our mind is kind of telling us about when like in case of any doctors that might even say too that well there are some times if you dream about things and they don't make a whole lot of sense, and maybe that for any reason at all, that in your dream that you were trying to impress somebody just by drawing them a picture of what comes to your mind, maybe thinking of something artistic that you want to show the class or something like that. And people are thinking too, it's like, a birdhouse is a birdhouse, right? But on the other hand, that you're dreaming about that birdhouse, that birdhouse, and let's just say, in case of anybody may want to know too, that in case of a tree that got hit by a bolt of lightning or something like that, or maybe if the wind blew it or something like that. So a lot of times it's like, the things that our dreams tell us a lot of times. But it sure seems that way that when we think about dreams, though, that the ones I'm talking about, the dreams that feel like they feel so real, the dreams that I'm like, the dreams that feel so real. So really, that so let's just say if you start a conversation with somebody, and let's just say that you start talking about something that maybe that hasn't happened yet, or never happened, or anything that you may not realize until later on. So a lot, I guess, if it's called the chronicle thinking, I don't know. I can just go ahead and give it that name, if it's what you call that, chronicle, something like that, chronicle thinking or something like that. If that's what it's called, the chronicle thinking. Toward that you have a bad feeling about something or something like that, or something that comes to your mind that you start talking to somebody about something, and then you start asking them questions, and then they were worried about something that might go so it's like so in case of anybody that may want to know too, that for really, what does it usually mean usually whenever you over exaggerate about something? And let's just say that you were you had a dream about something that went on, and so you're probably thinking too that so it's like so the way we think about that, though, is that when we think about dreams, though, that most of the time, though, it's like when we think about dreams, that we actually think about is, I'm like, if that's really what you call worrisome, or another way of how you want to call is that to where that yeah that another way of how you want to call dreams though is that something I'm like yeah something that comes to your mind and something that kind of comes to thought and all that, and then you might realize I'm like yeah some of those dreams that don't make any sense. That they don't make any sense, or maybe that you woke up after hearing the outside after the thunderstorm or something like that. So you just wake up and so a lot of times it sure seems that way. That how many of us have maybe thought about that to where that there are some dreams. Do you feel comfortable talking to somebody about dreams that you have? And but a lot of times that whenever I do draw pictures of birds, though, it sure seems that way to talk to people about that and want to know as to what exactly comes to your mind whenever you think about birds, though. I'm like, yeah, you think about how artistic that you want to make those birds, right? And maybe if you want to give them a little feathers and maybe add a little bit of color right here for the wings and all that. And so, yeah, so let's just say that you start from a blank piece of paper, and then if you were to work by adding in the eyes, and then you got there's the nose, and then along with the body right there, and then you start out with the piece of paper right there, and then you go ahead and draw the outline of the details right there to where okay, go ahead and give them feathers, and go ahead and give the bird wings, and give them feet and all that, and but still it. But yeah, like some of those, I'm like, yeah, if you can but still, this right here is the Microsoft Paint work right here. So you may not be able to, like, yeah, just to add all the feet and all that, but still, but with these birds right here, that I thought I'd show everybody here about as I don't know if everybody has seen this right here, but still, that talk about for the fall, and I think that yeah, whenever I was painting this, I actually was thinking go ahead and just paint the fall birds because for the season of fall, but still that when we think about dreams though, that how often are we gonna be thinking about that to where that are our dreams really telling us anything such as if we be careful or if anything yeah that you're dreaming about going somewhere or talking to somebody, even though if it hasn't happened, and you're probably thinking too that yeah, that it hasn't happened, or if anything, you start talking to somebody about a dream that you had, and a lot of times, like yeah, that dream is not going to make any sense or all that, but still, I want to talk to everybody here about I'm like yeah, talk about being prepared for the worst, and a lot of times what exactly does that mean to be prepared for the worst? And I guess like anybody say is to where that just a little bit of the opposite for being prepared for the better, right? Making sure that nothing goes wrong, and just knowing about how to handle something to where in case of things get any worse than what they really are, think of a better solution. That's what it's saying. But at the same time, it sure seems that way that we might even say too that our dreams really just don't make any sense the way we think about that. To where if you're dreaming about if you're going to a gardening or you're wandering in the woods or something like that. So yeah, if you're talking to somebody, and let's just say that you're dreaming about meeting somebody and talking to somebody about something, and you're trying to recall as this tour that you start talking to somebody about something, and and you're wondering that yeah, that conversation never happened, and so that's why it sure seems that way to where that is it all in your imagination to where I'm like talk about dreams though, but still you dream that I'm like yeah, you see birds flying, and then you might see I'm like yeah, butterflies. It could also be butterflies too, but still what do our dreams necessarily tell us? And that's why it sure seems that way that whenever we dream about things, and do you think that like everybody else, you might even say too that you go ahead and write them down so that way you can kind of get a better clue, a better idea about just get the thoughts and ideas available. And you're probably thinking too that hey, that you're just trying to make a little bit more sense to where that yeah, especially if you had the same dream repeatedly. I'm like, if we're talking about like maybe about every now and then, like maybe 5 times a month, that you have the same similar dreams, and you're probably want to know too that what exactly is that dream telling you. And in case of anybody that may want to know too, that yeah, well, that's usually another way of how you want to cause us toward our thoughts and your imaginations to be pre-ordered. And what I mean by pre-ordered, I mean by prepared. Like if you want to kind of cause us to be prepared. What do you really see coming up in the days ahead? Yeah, what do you think coming up in the days ahead? So in case if we were to, yeah, days ahead right here. So if we were to ask that question as to what do you what are you thinking about coming up in the days ahead? And a lot of it's about yeah, reactions, and then also emotional, the emotional feeling, something that you've been waiting to happen, and it makes you real nervous. Just know about the emotional feeling right there. So just to understand a little bit more about the signs study right there, talk about for emotional feeling and then reactions and all that. So really, that do most of our dreams really happen that way, to where that yeah, the things that haven't happened yet, and the things that seems to be so totally different compared to reality and all that. And but a lot of times it's like what's the best way of how to describe a dream about the ones that don't make any sense, and like anybody that might even say too, is it really best to go ahead and write about them, and let's just say that what you remember about that dream, and what about anything that that you can remember about that dream. And most of them have been about yeah, meeting someone meeting someone and asking them a question, asking them about something, yeah, asking him or her, I'm like, yeah, asking him or her a question. And so that's why it sure seems that way, that when we think about a dream, though, it's like, yeah, that in your dream that you actually you imagine in your mind that you're actually talking to this person, even though if it hasn't happened. That yeah. So it sure seems that way. That whenever we dream about things, it seems like it's all in our imagination. It's not really happening. It's not real. But like anybody probably say too, that whenever you do talk to somebody about your dream, and let's just say if they've had the similar dream, and they'll probably tell you that they go, yeah, well, like yeah. So really, what is that really telling us? Well, what do our dreams really tell us? And I guess I'll go and write the answer right here, to the best of my knowledge. But to me though, it's like for the for that the everyday thinking, for the everyday thinking that helps improve our thinking for the days ahead. So it sure seems that way, that we may have heard that before, toward that when we think about dreams, though, that quite a few of them that don't make any sense at all. So in case of anybody that may want to know too, you've had dreams about a lot of things, really. But one of those dreams, of course, can also maybe be as toward that if you were, dreaming about being at dinner with a few friends of yours, and they were trying to ask you something, but then you just woke up from a dream or something like that. I mean, yeah, you were distracted by maybe yeah, the alarm clock or something like that, or maybe lights on, or maybe that maybe the storm that was coming by or something like that. So a lot of times it sure seems that way, that that some of the dreams that don't make any sense, but then the ones that do make sense, and you're probably thinking too that a lot of times it's like when we think about that a lot of those dreams that don't make any sense, and you're probably thinking is to where you want to go ahead and spend the time to be able to piece together information about what you can remember about that dream. Think about the days ahead, but then also just to describe what you see and what you can remember. So I mean, I like anybody probably second to this, to where usually I draw a picture of what I can remember in those dreams, and I try to explain to people that if you were dreaming about going fishing and an event, like you dreamed about going fishing, but then there was an incident that happened or something like that, or you were dreaming that you were going fishing, but you were the only one there. You were the only one there at the lake, and very many people that didn't show up, and then somebody was trying to tell you something, and so that's why it sure seems that way. That like anybody say that talk about the thoughts and the concerns and all that, and so that's why it sure seems that way. That when we think about dreams, though, especially the dreams that we think about, and that kind of gives you an idea about us as to where that what exactly are these dreams telling us, and so I still think about that a lot of times. That whenever I'm doing my artwork right here, that about every time, and I could be honest with everybody here too, like every time I try to pull out a colored pencil or something like that, that's going to maybe remind me of something, or I get these thoughts and these ideas about to word that what exactly does this remind you of, and so it's like first of all it's like number one, that if I was able to draw an animal, such as maybe if I was able to draw a bird or maybe a butterfly freehand, and that would impress a lot of the class, right? But still, at the same time, it sure seems that way that our dreams. So that when we dream about things, it's like that you were dreaming about doing something and showing somebody something, and then all of a sudden it's like that you wind up getting distracted, or something. I'm like, the things that you see that go on in your dreams, and so like and I know a lot of people probably say too that if you were maybe at the park, maybe painting a picture of the birds, until all of a sudden this big wave of wind that blew a lot of the trees or something like that. So it's like people might even say that they had dreams about thunderstorms and clouds, and turn different shapes and sizes, stuff like that, something like that. But still, but it sure seems that way that when we think about that, to where that when we think about dreams, though, that most of those dreams that we do have, and you're probably thinking is to where most of them don't make any sense, but at the same time you're probably thinking is to where that the ones that do make sense, are they really telling us anything? And you're probably thinking too, well, they're telling us a little bit of something, to where that just keep something in mind, or So it sure seems that way. That most of the time that dreaming about talking to somebody, and then you talk to them maybe a few days or a few weeks later, and 102 is to where that that never happened. I don't know what you're talking about, because we didn't go to the park. We were not at the park together, but still, sometimes it sure seems that way. That any like if you're going to be going to a location, it's possible that people might even say too that the things that we dream about most of the time, you dream about things, and you have a better, clearer, a more better idea of what you were referring to. So it sure seems that way. That if anybody, anyone has a better idea about that dream, based on the description. So yeah, so a lot of times I keep thinking that too, based on description. So it sure seems that way. That is that really telling anybody that for who's right and who's wrong about yeah, you worry too much or something like that. So a lot of times it sure seems that way. That the way we think about that though is that when we think about dreams a lot of times, that do dreams really tell us anything in particular, or that just like just another way of stating as to where if you're overly tired and exhausted, but still that people might even say too that whenever we dream about something, that if another way of how you want to call it a nightmare though, you would call a nightmare or just what you call the chronicle thinking, that you dream about things, and maybe if you can't explain all the details about the dream, but still but it sure seems that way that whenever we dream about something, and you probably want to know too, is to where that whenever you dream about things, that it's basically imaginable, possible, or anything else that you thinking about, such as is toward you're trying to follow up about the details about that dream, and you'll want to know too that that looks very familiar. It was in your dream, and then you would be telling somebody about the details about that. It's like well, really, did this happen or did that happen? What are you talking about? What do you mean? Did I see this or did I see that? And so it's like, the dreams that you had, and I guess like everybody else might even want to know too, that are we really too embarrassed, really? I'm like, are you really too embarrassed? Are we really too embarrassed, to explain? To explain the dreams, the details, those details, those details about the dreams. And a lot of times, everybody else might even say too that well, really that people would probably be telling you that well, really that you don't really have to explain, but if anything, just to follow up about, like anything. I'm like, in case of anybody that may want to know too, that well, if people really didn't have the same dream, and more likely they won't know what you're talking about, but still that I know with me though that dreams. Like in case of people might want to know too, is to another way of how you want to describe a dream, though. They take you to I don't know if you want to call it a magical place. Yeah, a magical place or something like that. Your magical place. Maybe a place like another room. Another room. I guess is maybe another way of how you want to describe it too. But still, that yeah. So, but still, there are some dreams that we probably all think about too. Is toward it a lot of the dreams are what we call miracle, peaceful, type dreams and all that. But really, that talk about for the mystery dreams. I'll go and write that on here. The mystery dreams. Mystery dreams. The ones that make a little bit more sense later on, but you're just trying to figure out, what makes more sense, now and compared to later. And so a lot of times it sure seems that way that when we think about our dreams, though, that we think about as toward most of the time it's over something that either hasn't happened yet or it's all what you call it's like that, something that it just kind of gets people concerned about it. So that's why it sure seems that way that when we think about dreams, though, that most of the time with most dreams, that whenever you think about them, and you're likely thinking too that really that whenever we think about dreams, though, that we also see things that maybe not everybody else can see, and then try to better explain them, right? But anyway, but just knowing about this, to where people say case of everybody say that, yeah, it seems like to me though, it seems to be good, just to try to talk about your dreams to anybody else who may have had the same dreams, and like anybody say too that really the dream don't really make a lot any sense at all, but still at the same time it's like really if it's the whole purpose about that is toward that really that our dreams are just another way of staying us toward just to kind of like like I say that do other people see what you think about, do other people see what's really on your mind, really but how well people really understand your thoughts and all that, talk about if it's typical psychology or just typical science, anything like that. But I thought I'd show everybody here that right there. I talk about for understanding about dreams, but they got there's the birds right there. But anyway, thanks for watching, everyone. Have a great day.